Halloween is finally here, and I have a very special night lined up for you. Join me in my cheap old haunted house for a night of treats, tricks, and maybe a few ghosts. I'm Nick, and welcome to Practical Peculiarities. Happy Halloween, and welcome to this year's Halloween special. We had so much fun last year jumping into the bogey book with the deadly dames and going into the 1920s and stuff. But this year, it's a little different. As some of you may know, I moved from my small apartment in Los Angeles to a cheap old haunted house. And it's so cool and so charming and a little creepy. And I'm not talking about the hideous linoleum floor that's in the hallway or the horrendous aluminum siding that's covering all the original woodwork. I'm talking about creaky floorboards and shadows that I see out of the corner of my eye. All the creepiness that I've discovered in this house, like pictures of old family members behind the fireplace and some weird things in the basement, I can't help but wonder what Halloween must have been like throughout the eras since 1900. From the year 1900, when this house was built, to 2024, so many things have changed in terms of costumes, styles, people, decor. As a matter of fact, not again.
Again? Oh, Nick, you're such a scaredy cat.
Did you miss us?
The Deadly Dames. Why are you in this old television?
Well, it's that time of year again. We enjoyed last year's shindig so much that we thought we'd crash this one.
But we see you don't have much going on here.
Wait, are you here to torment me again through song?
Oh, we never turned down the opportunity to sing.
But we're actually here to give you a message from beyond.
You're not alone in this house.
Well, obviously, you're right in front of me.
Oh, no. There are others.
Quite mysterious spirits, too.
A lady in a blue dress started zipping in and out of the floorboards and stashed something under that white floorboard. Over there.
I don't see anything.
Under the piece of linoleum.
This book of tricks has served me well. Its treats will put you under a spell. Gentle Spooks, Mary B., 1956. Peculiar. Very peculiar. The pamphlet that we found in the attic is called Cut Up Cakes, a calendar of new cake-making ideas. Apparently, it belonged to Mary. And we're actually in Mary's kitchen. Well, it's my kitchen now, but it used to be hers. Now, it makes perfect sense that this book is from the 50s because in the instructions it says use a cake mix. Back in the 50s, cake mixes were a staple in kitchens across America. But there's one problem. I think they're absolutely horrible. I hate cake mixes. But I do believe that they can be doctored up to make them taste less artificial. So without further ado, I give you my version of the HALLO-WITCH cake from 1956. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and gather all the ingredients. To a bowl, add 1 box of spiced cake mix. Add 1 cup of each: sugar, flour, and canned pumpkin puree. Dump in 1 cup of sour cream and crack in 3 unborn chickens. Add 1 cup of whole milk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Fold it in with a rubber spatula. I'm scraping the bottom and bringing it over top. Do this until all the dry ingredients are incorporated. It's okay if there's lumps in the batter. You just want to make sure not to overmix this, because that makes the cake tough. Spray a 9x9 inch pan with baking spray. I like to brush it on to even it out. Fill the pan about 3/4 of the way full. You'll have some batter left over. Don't attempt to add it to the cake pan because it won't bake properly. The leftover batter will make a dozen cupcakes. While the cakes are baking, we're going to stick with the 1950s theme of ease and do a simple Russian buttercream. Now I love this buttercream because it's only 3 ingredients and it's not as sweet as most buttercreams. Although it is a simple recipe, there are some small things to keep in mind, and first has to do with the butter. The butter has to be soft, but not too soft. Ideally, if you could stick your finger in the butter and it slowly glides through, it's good. If it's too soft, you'll have sweet soup. Add 3 sticks of butter to the bowl and beat it for 3 minutes until fluffy. Add 1 cup of sweetened condensed milk and mix for 1 minute. Right now you're witnessing the death of my vintage mixer. Poor girl. Add 6 ounces of softened cream cheese and beat on low speed for 30 to 45 seconds, just until incorporated. You don't want to overmix this because it'll curdle. Once it curdles, there's no going back and you've ruined Halloween. So follow directions. In the end, the frosting should be smooth like a canned frosting, not light and fluffy like a cream. Divide the frosting into 3 bowls. So I'm going to color these in 2 colors, black, orange, and then we're keeping 1 white. So my method of doing this and getting intense colors is a little unconventional, and it's optional, but it's definitely encouraged to get the brightest and richest of colors. I actually explain this method in my new cookbook, Peculiar Baking, A Practical Guide to Strange Confections. In my chapter, Conjuring Color, I teach you this process. So, it's fairly simple. For the first bowl, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of black cocoa powder and mix it in. You can see that it turns a grayish color, which is a good base for making a deep black. Next, I add in a few drops of black food dye, and I mix it in. I find that using both of these gives it a really deep color, but it doesn't compromise the taste. To make the colors deeper, I blend it with an immersion blender. This deepens the color by emulsifying everything. Here's a before and after. Since blending the cream softens it a little, I'm going to put it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it. I do the same process with the second bowl of frosting, except I add some orange and a little bit of blue food dye. Adding blue ages the color and gives me a more vintage look, which I'm going for. And again, I hit it with the immersion blender to amplify the color. Usually I don't use aluminum foil for cake boards, but there's something so retro about it, so it's perfect for this cake. So I'm going to crumple it up and smooth it out to create a texture. The angles in the texture will help reflect light in an interesting way. Once the cake is baked, I dump it out, turn it over, and flatten the top. If you've ever made a pumpkin cake before, you know that they're moist and sticky. According to the illustrations in the book, it wants me to cut a little corner for the nose and a large corner for the hat. I flipped it around so you could see better. This looks a little simple, so I'm taking some creative liberty. First, I'm going to cut the tip of the nose off and turn it into the chin, and then I define the brim of the hat a little better. Starting with the white frosting, I mark the placement of the hair. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point because it's just a base coat. I smooth the gaps in the face with orange frosting. I like to be mindful of the direction that I'm spreading the frosting. This direction imitates laugh lines and wrinkles. You can really see the face being formed. Spread the black on the hat. The sides get a little crumbly, so do your best to encapsulate the crumbs. With a putty knife or a toothpick, etch where you'd like the features to be. I'm adding an eye, a mouth, and some wrinkle lines. With the number 3 piping tip, go over the etchings with black frosting. From there, add any additional details. I'm piping a classic buckle on the hat. In the book, it's suggested to use coconut for the hair because the book is actually an advertisement for coconut, but I won't be messing up my cake with coconut, so I'm going to pipe the hair on with these squiggles. Decorate the cupcakes with the leftover frosting. And bam! A perfect HALLO-WITCH cake. Super easy, and dare I say, bewitching. I'm very pleased with my version of the HALLO-WITCH cake. She's actually inspired by the Halloween die cuts that you see back in the 50s and even in the 20s. But now to taste. So moist. And the cream cheese frosting gives it a nice tang. And like the book says, whether she's a glad witch or a mad witch is up to you. I think she's a glad witch.
Boogeyman, boo, 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 boogeyman, boo, boo. Ba-dum-bum-bum. In the shadows where the whispers creep, under the bed where the children sleep, a figure dwells in the midnight gloom. It's the boogeyman shrouded in a cloud of doom. With eyes like coals and a breath like fog, he lingers near in the darkened bog. He knows your fears, your secrets deep, and grins with glee as you start to weep. Boo, 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 boogeyman, boo, 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 boogeyman, boo, 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 boogeyman, boo, boo. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Don't close your eyes, don't make a sound, for the boogeyman prowls lurking around. Deep in your mind where nightmares thrive, he dances and twirls, keeping fear alive. Boo, 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 boogeyman, boo, boo.
I look forward to decorating for Halloween every year. Ever since I was a kid, I've been obsessed with Halloween decorations. While other kids played with like toys and teddy bears and stuff, I played with Halloween decorations. And, I never grew out of that. So here I have some of my most prized possessions. These are vintage Halloween paper pulp jack-o'-lanterns, and they span from the 1930s to the 1950s. You can see this one is a little scary, and that indicates the age of it. Historically, because Halloween was a little creepier in the olden days, and as the holiday developed into the mid-century, it got a lot more happier. So 1930s, and this one over here is from the 1950s. You can see how different their expressions are. Happy, scary. Every year that these things get older, their value goes up and they get more and more expensive. And I've been collecting them since I was about 16 years old. One of the craziest things about these is that people used to light actual candles on the inside. Like this one, you can see candle residue on the inside. And also, this one is my newest one, and it actually fell victim to the flames. Its paper insert is burnt to a crisp. But I like how it looks with the burned paper insert. It makes it more creepy. I love how they looked grouped together, so I'm going to keep them as a family and put them on my mantel. I love these two-tiered mantles because they give me an opportunity to decorate without it feeling cluttered. My trick when decorating mantles is to incorporate levels. I do this by utilizing mini cupcake stands, turning small bowls upside down, and even stacking them on top of each other. Once all the levels are established, I like to add fillers, like these honeycomb balls and paper fans. If you saw my Halloween special last year, you saw that I made these festoons out of streamers. Well, here's proof that they last longer than 1 year. For the rest of the fireplace, I'll go fairly minimal, incorporating a simple die-cut banner from the 1940s. I was hesitant about adding a banner to the antique wood, but luckily the previous owners already made little tack holes in the mantle. My trick is actually using the pearl-tipped sewing pins to stick into the mantle. 1, because this makes them invisible, and 2, because it doesn't make the hole get any bigger. It just sticks right in. I added another banner to my living room mantle, and I clipped some vintage trick-or-treat bags onto it. I have a pumpkin theme in the dining room and a cat theme in the living room. Another way to use paper festoons is in the doorway. Between my living room and dining room, I have this pocket door threshold, and it has this convenient wooden pole. I'm using this to hang the festoon in an interesting way, inspired by the Victorian spandrels. A spandrel is a type of wood fretwork that's found in Victorian houses. In the center, I'm going to add this German embossed witch die cut from the 1920s. In the early 1900s, Germany imported a lot of really cool paper decorations to America, just like the embossed ones. This is when the holiday began its popularity. It was just really cool what they had, all these weird vegetable faces. What the rats? I don't remember having this. In the garden where shadows creep, peering veggies awake from sleep, ghoulish goblins from below, carved to set the table aglow. Mrs. Amy and Miss Catherine C., 1902. Set the table aglow. Guess I'm not done decorating. Tonight's craft is inspired by these early German pressed paper jack-o'-lanterns with paper inserts. Blow up a balloon only part way. Fold and twist the tail and clip it closed with a clothespin. Take some twine and cut it into 4 equal pieces. Tie them together in the center and spread them out like spider legs. Place the balloon in the center and tie each string opposite each other to create a cage. Adjust the strings if you need to, then blow it up slightly to create pumpkin ridges. Tie the balloon closed and adjust the strings as needed. Just remember that a perfect pumpkin doesn't exist. From there, I add lukewarm water to a bowl along with matte Mod Podge. I'm using plaster gauze for this instead of newspaper for a few reasons. First being that it dries faster, that it requires less layers, and lastly, because it's more durable. Dip the strips in the water glue mixture and layer them on the balloon. You want to add 3 layers, making sure to alternate directions for more durability. Using watered down Mod Podge is a great trick for a rock-hard shell. It's important to remember to smooth over the holes in the gauze for the best finish. I like to let these dry overnight, so I made one last night to continue the process. I've never been able to draw a circle, but here we go. Draw and cut a circle on the top with a sharp X-Acto knife. Use a small sawing motion to cut through the gauze threads easier. Using a small template, I'm drawing some eyes, a nose, and a grinning mouth. I then cut them out with an X-Acto knife. Next, I grab some ready-to-use joint compound and smother it over the pumpkin. This stuff will give the pumpkin a smooth finish without having to sand it. At this point, it doesn't have to be completely smooth, but make sure to smooth over the cuts to spackle down the loose fibers from the gauze. Once the joint compound is roughly spread, I place the pumpkin upside down on a spray paint can and allow it to set for about 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be completely dry. I use the glue water mixture from before and smooth it out with a sponge. I also like to use my fingers for smaller spots. Once smooth, place it on the spray paint can and let it dry for 45 minutes. To a small bowl, add some Mod Podge, a bit of acrylic paint, and water to create sort of a primer. This helps encapsulate everything and makes it much easier to paint. It doesn't have to be perfect, this is just a base coat. Set it aside to dry. Once dry, paint it with acrylic paint. While that dries, take some vellum, which is a translucent paper. Let's prepare the face. I know this looks like a creepy clown face now, but it won't when it's inside the pumpkin. Cut the features out, leaving extra space around the edges. Drown them in black coffee for 5 to 10 minutes to give them an aged look. I find that Sharpies are the only markers that don't bleed underwater. I'm going to spray the final pumpkin with a flat, clear sealer. Sheen is everything, so don't skip this step. It'll make your decoration last for years to come. Next, I take the dried paper inserts and glue them around the margin. Then I stick them on from the inside, trimming any excess as I go. Add a wire to the top, and bam! Perfect vintage veggie lanterns to set the table aglow. You can use this technique to make many peculiar fruit and veggie lanterns, like squash, rutabagas, watermelons, and more.
worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. The worms play pinnacle on your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose. They eat the jelly between your toes. Do 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 do. A big green worm with rolling eyes crawls in your stomach and out your eyes. Your stomach turns a slimy green, and pus comes out like whipping cream. The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out. The worms play pinnacle on your snout. They eat your eyes, they eat your nose. They eat the jelly between your toes. Do 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 do.
This coal miner's harvest stew is a staple at my Halloween table every year. It's hearty, festive, and so easy to make. To a bowl, add 2 stalks of chopped celery, 2 cloves of minced garlic, a half tablespoon of fresh grated ginger, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Set the bowl aside and grab your beef. It's important to use 2 pounds of chuck roast beef with marbling. The marbling in the beef will ensure that it cooks to tender perfection. Cut the beef into 1-inch cubes. Add it to the marinade, toss it, and cover it to set for at least 30 minutes. The longer you let it marinate, the better. Place a Dutch oven on high heat and add a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Add the beef cubes in a single layer to sear them in small batches. Cook each side for 1.5 to 2 minutes. Once they have a nice sear, add them to a plate. Add 1 chopped onion in the marinade. Cook until the onions are translucent. Then add 1 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, 2 cans of fire-roasted tomatoes, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, pepper, 3 bay leaves, and stir. Add the beef and drown it all in 2 cups of low-sodium chicken stock. Cover the pot and simmer for 50 minutes. While that cooks, chop 4 carrots into rounds. Skin, seed, and dice 1 pound of butternut squash. This one was big, so I'm only using half. After the first 50 minutes of simmering, dump the squash and carrots into the stew and simmer for 40 more minutes until they're tender. Meanwhile, prepare the pumpkin bowls. With an edible marker, rest your hand on the cutting board and touch the marker to the pumpkin. Turn the pumpkin around to get an even line. Cut the pumpkin in half and de-seed it. This is truly the smell of Halloween to me. Brush the inside of the pumpkin with olive oil. Crack in some pepper and sprinkle with salt. Bake for 10 minutes uncovered. After 10 minutes, cover them with aluminum foil and bake for 10 more minutes. Fill the pumpkin bowls with this hearty stew and finish with some fresh parsley. I love serving this with a sliced baguette that I spread with melted butter and cinnamon, after which I bake for a perfect autumn toast. It's truly the best companion for this stew. Use the pumpkin lids for presentation, and bam! Perfect harvest stew. So the next time a spirit asks for stew, you definitely know what to do. Besides Halloween being a night of mischief, It was also a night for fortune-telling, superstition, and games, like placing 3 plates in front of someone, one with water, one with milk, and one that is empty. The player was then blindfolded, and they had to feel their way around for the plates. If they were to dip their fingers in the water, they're destined to marry. If they dip their fingers in the milk, there is a widow in their future. And the empty bowl, they're fated to end their days as a bachelor. Bobbing for apples is a time-old tradition for informal parties, but for formal parties, the game had modifications. First, a tiny slit was cut into an apple, and a fortune was added. A red ribbon was then tied to the top and placed in the water. This made it easy to bite the apple without getting drenched. The strangest requires you to hold a candle in one hand and a hand mirror in the other. Then you would slowly walk down the stairs backwards to see if your lover would appear in the mirror.
Hey, lover boy.
Whoa! Whoa. Don't try that at home.
Gotcha again. Happy Halloween. Welcome to the party. Hope your tushy is okay.
I feel like you 3 are trying to turn me into a ghost.
Aw, we were just trying to have a little fun. Yeah. This party is a bit of a drag. Where are all the people?
Well, I'm new in town. I don't know anybody.
How sad. And I thought being dead was depressing.
Be nice, girls. There are permanent guests in this house, Nikk. You just have to call them.
You have their phone numbers?
Phone number? How cute.
We prefer to call on people in style.
Yeah, like that.
These walls can talk and hear and see. They whisper the most on Halloween. All through the halls, the shadows roam. Spirits of time, make yourselves known. Whoa! What the? Wait. Are you?
They are.
Welcome. Welcome to my home. Our home. Welcome home.
On that note, hit it, girls.
A pinch of scream, a dash of fright. Mix it up in the pale moonlight. Make a wish, cast a spell, and bam, endure a sweet peculiar hell. Conjured on the stove below, nightmares on a silver tray. Please don't scream, please don't go. Stay and dance the night away.
Welcome to my sweet soiree. You'll find it hard to slip away. Peculiar treats, bewitching style. Grab a seat and stay a while.
The deadly dames have shackled you into your fancy chairs. Tighter and tighter we squeeze your limbs until you answer truth or scare. Welcome to my sweet soiree. You'll find it hard to slip away. Peculiar treats, bewitching style. Move your feet and stay. Stay a while.
I was always told never to trust the living, but it's the dead that can't be trusted. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed tonight's Halloween special. I know I did, meeting all the previous owners of my house. But before you go, I'd love to do a little show and tell with you. People often ask me how I know about vintage Halloween decorations and where I get them. And to be honest, I have the coolest reference books that I always refer to when I'm looking for new pieces. So the first one is Halloween Artifacts. This is written by my friend Robert Aaron Wiley. And it's this volume is for just vintage Halloween lighting. It says, a timeline series based on novelty merchandise catalogs managed by the Halloween Retrospect Library. And I have some vintage decorations in there now. The craft that we did tonight was actually inspired by a photo in this book, so thank you very much to my friend. The next one is actually one that I've had since I was 16. This actually started it all. And this is Halloween in America by Stuart Schneider. And it basically has all of these really cool photos and information about the Halloween decorations from the early centuries to, I think, the mid-century. And I always refer to this when I'm going to look for something. I actually love looking in the book and seeing if I have the thing. It's so cool to see it in the book and then see it in real life. So, very cool one. The last one is kind of a double. So these are like collage books by Robert and Heidi Pandas. And this is called Vintage Halloween, a Party Book. And this one is called Vintage Halloween Tricks, Treats, and Traditions. And they just have beautiful imagery of Halloween's past. And I use this in a lot of, for inspiration for a lot of my arts. It's nice to have all of this compiled in these two humongous books because I don't have to find all the books that they're in, wherever they are because they're so old. And lastly, for the best book of all, Peculiar Baking, a practical guide to strange confections. This is my new cookbook and it comes out in just a few days and I'm so excited. It's already a bestseller and you're going to love it too. It's basically a cookbook full of peculiar recipes and it's modeled after a grimoire spellbook, if you don't know. And it's just a beautiful book. It has a leatherette covering, it has gold gilding, and you're gonna love it. Again, so if you want to check out my book tour, just look on my Instagram or my community posts and you can see where I'm gonna be and you can get a signed copy. I also would like to thank you for this. So this came in the mail a few days ago and I just want to say again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad that you love the things that I love. And this is because I reached over 100,000 subscribers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited. And again, have a happy Halloween.